Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the view from the opposition. I'm Andrew Musgrove, and this week I'm joined by the Maresca Trotter to talk all about Chelsea. Newcastle head down to Stamford Bridge on Sunday before facing Chelsea again up here at St James's Park on Wednesday night in the League Cup. But the focus is on the top flight and the need for Newcastle United to get back to winning ways. Scott, regular contributor to the podcast, welcome back. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Yeah, very well. Always good to get on the pod.
Yes, well, thank you for coming back on. Let's talk about the impact that Enzo Maresca has had on Chelsea, because I think looking from the outside in, everyone, especially in the summer, considered it maybe a bit of a strange move, considering he was relatively inexperienced, and Chelsea continued in the summer to just buy everyone they possibly could. And yet he's seemingly turned it around, and he's got a good grip of things.
Yeah, I commented to a colleague at a press conference recently, and it was a bizarre, what felt like a stable period at Chelsea. I think, as you said, the summer, there was still a lot of turnover. There was some perhaps concerning results. They didn't have a very good pre-season, in contrast to the year before under Mauricio Pochettino. But then the start of the season has been a contrast to that, and they have started pretty well. They've shown some good form. They've perhaps... I think they've played Liverpool and Man City, so not a super easy start, but maybe a kinder start than what this kind of next run of fixtures offers. But they're showing some promise. There still is some, I think, fallibilities there, some things to take advantage of. But I think after the last 2-3 years under this new ownership and before that, things have, they feel a bit more settled and not as disrupted, and that there's maybe something that's easier to get behind, and perhaps that helps that they had such a strong finish to the end of last season as well.
Well, you asked Newcastle United fans how they're feeling about the game on Sunday, and those who got in touch with me over Twitter, over X, are worried about what's going to happen on Sunday. We've got Tony saying we won't even score, never mind win. Rob says the look and performance has to change soon, so why not on Sunday? We've got another one saying, nope, we can't score one goal to win. We've got someone else in the back line is my only worry. We need Botman back fit. I'll take a draw. David says, I think it's going to be a tough few weeks. The other David says, I'm not confident. And another one of our followers said, you need to score goals to win football matches. So it seems from that pool of fans that there's not a lot of optimism going into this game. But as you said there, as good as Chelsea are maybe performing, or they're performing better than others expected them to, they're still vulnerable in places. And I think what gives me hope is that they look vulnerable at the back. This centre-back pairing doesn't seem quite settled yet. Is that their main weakness that Newcastle can exploit?
Yeah, there's certainly a hint that Chelsea can be exposed. Whether it's the weakness of the pairing itself, or perhaps not enough protection, or just the fact that, Chelsea are reasonably rigid in playing out from the back like so many teams are now, it does leave the opportunity for an error there. I think Chelsea have had a mistake in the back line for a little while now, probably even before Enzo Maresca. So there certainly will be opportunities to pounce on. I think, I haven't watched loads of Newcastle this season, but if they can produce a performance like that against Manchester City and, maybe put a bit more pressure on that kind of Chelsea backline, there will be opportunities that they can maybe rely upon. And because, like I said, Chelsea do like to play out from the back, any team that is proficient in a strong press will have opportunities. I think some people maybe look at Robert Sanchez as a bit of a weakness as well. His distribution isn't the best. It can be taken advantage of. And if he's not having his best day again, a team that is quickly onto him can offer something. I think obviously Brighton didn't win, but they really kind of put him under pressure early doors. And yeah, there are certainly mistakes in the team. I think for all things are better, players are another year experienced, and perhaps that has helped. It is still quite a young team as well. So a savvy opposition can, find positives against them.
And who will be the centre-back pairing? Because obviously Chelsea signed Tosin, and Newcastle United thought they had that one in the bag. So not only were Newcastle United fans be going down to Stamford Bridge hoping for all 3 points. They will also be hoping that if Tosin does feature, that it's kind of one of those Hollywood script moments where everything goes terribly wrong for him. He either scores an own goal or gets sent off, or at the very least has a very bad performance. Will he be within a chance of starting on Sunday?
Yeah, it's an interesting one after starting against Liverpool. I think, Enzo Maresca's preferred partnership has been Levi Colwill and Wesley Fofana. He probably will be back this weekend, I would guess. And I think it still maybe offers the same sort of, insights for Newcastle attackers, what Tosin does. They're both going to try and be brave on the ball, and maybe Tosin does have that extra mistake in him, but Fofana's far from perfect as well. So yeah, I would expect that, but I think we're probably going to see a complete rotation for Chelsea's Europa League game, and neither of them are probably going to play in that, so they both will be available. But I think Fofana's probably going to get the edge over him.
Yeah, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. What day is it today? Is it Thursday? It is Thursday. Thursday afternoon, and Chelsea play tonight in Europe. And when we were organising this, you said, is that going to be an issue? We don't think so, because the teams are probably going to be vastly different to what lines up tonight in Athens to what lines up against Newcastle on Sunday. Although you've probably jinxed it, Scott, and it'll probably be the same team now, and now you've said that. I've had a bit of criticism this week because I've been kind of optimistic about Newcastle United, despite the fact that they haven't scored in open play in 4 big games, despite the fact that they haven't won in quite a while. My kind of train of thought is that they should have beaten Brighton. They had 21 shots on target. They had similar amounts against Everton. They're creating chances. And I look at Chelsea's back line, and it's not a back line where you go, Newcastle United are going to be marked out of the game here. So I'm taking what they created against Brighton and inevitably missed into this game on Sunday, thinking that they're going to have a chance to create again. And fingers crossed this time around, they can take those chances and turn them into goals.
Yeah, it's interesting with Chelsea, because against Liverpool last weekend, they, probably put in one of their better displays in recent times against a team of that quality. They did somewhat, I guess, impressively deny Liverpool quite a few chances. I think Liverpool maybe had single digits opportunities on target, and maybe altogether as well. But I think what was key is that Liverpool got really good chances when they did get good chances. There was obviously the penalties. There was a few kind of errors that allowed like Curtis Jones and Mo Salah in. And I think it's kind of turning a good defensive performance on a Chelsea side of things to one where you kind of stifle the opponent. And Liverpool never really felt entirely stifled, despite Chelsea maybe having a bit more control, dominating possession as they like to do. So, yeah, I think it's really going to be key for Newcastle to maybe take advantage of those mistakes. Somebody, I guess, like Isak to maybe get back to form after injury to really punish Chelsea because they do have the ability to control possession, even if they are offering something up.
Do you think that's what's going to happen on Sunday? Is that the kind of game we can expect, where Chelsea will have the majority of the ball and Newcastle will have to sit back and absorb it and then hit them on the counter?
Yeah, I think that's what they'll look to do. I think, Maresca's probably been a little bit more flexible than what many expected. I think there was some concerns over how rigid he'd be, and he's kind of like possession-based player. But he has shown a little bit more flexibility. But I think, the basics, the playing out from the back, the maybe seeing the fullbacks come in to midfield, the kind of trying to attack from that platform is probably gonna be what we see. If Newcastle can frustrate Chelsea, it'll be interesting to see what happens then. To see what the likes of Cole Palmer will do. He had a difficult time against Liverpool. They kind of kept him quiet, so he'll be kind of looking to bounce back from that. And I think the other thing that Chelsea do have, and this has been true for a few seasons, but maybe they've not always been the best at using it, is trying to break behind teams as well, using that space behind the back. The likes of Nicholas Jackson, I guess, famed probably for missing chances more than taking them, but he does have a pretty good record despite the glaring misses he does have, and he scored once again and took advantage of Liverpool's high line last weekend. And they've obviously got players the likes of Noni Madueke who'll try and attack the back. They've got Pedro Neto, who I'll be interested to see whether he starts this coming weekend. I think he has looked a real threat and does kind of pose pace for any opposition. And Jadon Sancho obviously has been starting, but perhaps been a bit less keen to take a shot in front of goal when he's not really been at it. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to see as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the game kind of pans out, because in recent weeks we've seen Newcastle have more of the ball and dominate and not be able to put that dominance into goals, whereas this time around, we expect them to have to sit back and absorb, so have to have that discipline. But maybe that's what they need. They just need a different approach to the game. But everything has to fall into place. If they do manage to hit Chelsea on the counter, then they've got to make sure that they turn that into a goal or two. But with Anthony Gordon out on the left, with that pace and that ability to run at Chelsea's defence, that should be a good outlet for Newcastle. Isak looking to maybe right the wrongs of last week. And then the midfield three as well of Bruno, Joelinton and Sandro Tonali. There's some talk maybe Sean Longstaff comes in for one of them. I can't quite see that happening, but they have the ability there to really hurt Chelsea. So it's certainly going to be an interesting one. But you mentioned Cole Palmer there and how Liverpool kind of had his number last weekend. That's no easy task. So what is the secret to keeping Cole Palmer quiet?
I guess trying to deny him opportunities. He's somebody who does like a lot of volume, both in terms of holding the ball and being able to, have those efforts on goal. I think, as a number of pundits pointed out last week, Curtis Jones was probably kind of star man in that game in many respects, and maybe that means you're going to need a really big performance from that Newcastle midfield to try and kind of, pull double duty of being able to quieten him down whilst also being able to attack up the other end of the pitch as well. And I think, maybe just trying to starve him, get in front of him, cut off the passing lines from the likes of Casido and stuff's going to be really important. And, denying, I guess, those fullbacks as well and putting pressure on them. I think kind of another interesting selection decision for Chelsea is going to be whether Reece James or Malo Gusto perhaps starts, because Marc Cucurella should come back in at left back. James has kind of been carefully managed back from his injury. And I think maybe Newcastle fans would like to see James, given what happened at St. James's Park was it last season. And I think, Gordon could probably really challenge him to see how fit he really is, whereas Gusto's perhaps maybe not more athletic, because James is probably as athletic as they come. But Gusto showing ability to kind of get up and down, but again, perhaps has a foul and pick up a yellow card as well. So yeah, I think that will be a really interesting battle in addition to the Palmer one. But yeah, I think in midfield, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and whoever else is selected for Newcastle, it's going to be a really stiff challenge to keep Palmer quiet and maybe battling with Caicedo as well to stop him being able to have time on the ball and really start the build-up play as well.
So what is Palmer's role in the team? Because against Liverpool, it looked like he was playing kind of central of the three, and then you had Jackson up top by himself. Is that where he plays? Is it a bit of a free role? I'm just trying to work out kind of whose responsibility it will be to try and keep him out of the game.
Yeah, so presuming things stay the same, he is going to take on a more central role. I think over the last 12 months he kind of does have that freedom to float around, and I don't think that will change because he is kind of Chelsea star player. But Maresca will want some discipline, and yeah, he's probably going to take on that number 10 role with a bit more attacking license than his teammates, I imagine.
I think the one thing that worries me is that you've got Fabian Schär, one of the centre backs, who has a tendency to maybe dive in or back off. So, if he's in that mindset, then Palmer can take advantage of that. On the other side, you've got Dan Burn, who hasn't really got the pace. He's been superb since he's come in. But if Palmer gets the chance to run at either one of them, it does worry me slightly. And then, of course, on either flank, if it is the same team that started against Liverpool, Sancho and Madueke on either flank, that's the dangerous front, kind of three there with Jackson as well. But then Newcastle, as I've mentioned, have got their players who can also hurt Chelsea. Talk to me about Stamford Bridge, because they've won 1 out of 4 at home. So it's not quite the fortress. It's not going too badly, but it's not the fortress that many Chelsea fans would like to think Stamford Bridge is.
Yeah, I think maybe even last season it felt the same. Stamford Bridge is a ground that can have a really good atmosphere on the big nights and big wins, and they can get behind them. But I think there's, particularly after the last 3 seasons, there's always a little bit more uncertainty there, particularly because the team is maybe prone to error is a bit too much, but they have seen a lot of defeats or draws where they, for the best part of 2 decades, are used to winning there every week. So there is something to capitalise on there if Newcastle can start on the front foot and score a goal. I think maybe because of recent results, even though they haven't come at home, there's a bit more belief that Chelsea can take something from games. Maybe there's not the immediate sort of malaise that sets in. But yeah, I think, and it has been probably for a long time, it's an atmosphere that's on a bit of a knife edge, and it'll be up to Chelsea or Newcastle to kind of dictate how that atmosphere is for the course of 90 minutes.
We mentioned the Europa Conference. It is Europa Conference, isn't it? Yes. Chelsea travelling to Athens, and how the team that starts there tonight starts on Thursday night will be different to the one that starts on Sunday. But you're still probably going to have the majority of players traveling over to Greece, maybe, or not? Yeah. Are you?
So Levi Colwell, Moises Caicedo, Nicholas Jackson, Reece James, Malo Gusto, Romeo Lavia, Cole Palmer, they're all, and Wesley Fofana, they're all staying over here.
Well, there's my point straight out of the window. I was going to ask you how it affects the team, because even those not playing who were supposedly travelling, in my question, but I suppose your answer is it probably won't affect the team because it will be a totally different lineup.
Yeah. I think maybe, like you said, that this season they have kind of completely rotated time and again, 11 players. I guess maybe there's an argument that players would prefer to get more rhythm. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes. I think the interesting ones will be somebody like Pedro Neto, who has came into that team. How much will he play? Will he feature from the start against Newcastle? I think it's going to be more, I guess, those substitutes that are impacted. Maybe somebody like Tosin as well. Somebody like Christopher Nkunku will start and then probably come on from the bench over the weekend. So yeah, it's so far reasonably well managed from a Chelsea perspective.
But is it a game that they could do without? I mean, he's never going to admit it. Is he? Or maybe he has done. I don't know. I've not been following. But is it a game that in an ideal world, if they couldn't play today, they didn't have to play on Thursday, ahead of Sunday, that they would take that and just concentrate on Sunday's game?
I think probably just from being able to focus on a game for a whole week versus a few days. I think where it does help Chelsea is that once again they've managed to get this unwieldy large squad after kind of maybe just about sticking in with it. Last season it probably they probably got too many players realistically. So in terms of keeping players happy at this stage, maybe that is their overall benefit, but also they're preparing 2 different teams for 2 different matches almost, with a few players flitting in between. So yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be ideal playing in these conditions, these competitions. It does offer them a chance to win a trophy. It also offers the chance for them to not look great if they do anything but win the trophy. But yeah, I think in terms of focusing on one game at a time, it'll always be a benefit to a team that only plays once a week.
And what's the view of Newcastle United, you think, from the Chelsea fan base, from Chelsea as a club? Things haven't gone quite to plan. Last season was a bit of a disappointment. This season, they've fallen down to 9th, but they've still only lost 2 games so far in this campaign. So what is the viewpoint of Newcastle United from the Chelsea side?
Yeah, I think Chelsea's games against Newcastle in the last 2 years have probably been pretty back and forth. There have been some positive moments for Newcastle, some positive moments for Chelsea. There's been some draws in amongst there. I think it's kind of cemented in the calendar as a difficult fixture until proven otherwise now. I think, again, if you're somebody who perhaps doesn't watch Newcastle, it's, I guess, until maybe that Brighton result, it's looked as if Newcastle have been flying and ready to take another, go at the top four. And I think they are still seen as competition for that top four spot. I guess, even if it is for the fourth spot of 3 teams standing out once again in the Premier League. So certainly, again, that is going to be a challenge, is going to be against direct competition. Maybe not quite as much noise as a game against Liverpool, where Chelsea is still trying to find out how good they are. But yeah, I think this maybe even bigger than the Liverpool game. I don't know whether it would be for fans or in any respect, but I think in terms of finding out where Chelsea are over the course of this next 3 weeks before the international break, it's probably massive.
Are you ready for some stats? Okay.
Go on.
I've got to warn our listeners and viewers, they're not overly positive for Newcastle United, but I am going to read them out. So Chelsea have lost just one of their 29 Premier League home games against Newcastle, winning 21 and drawing 7, going down to a 2-0 defeat in May 2012. Newcastle have won 2 of the last 4 Premier League games against Chelsea, as many as they had in their previous 13. Newcastle, though, have gone without a win in their last 4, so they do risk going 5. The last time that happened was last March. Chelsea tend to enjoy a good run out against Newcastle United, and Newcastle at this moment in London are having a torrid time of it. They went on an 8-game unbeaten run in the capital between October 2022 and October 2023, but Newcastle have lost their lost 5 of their last 7 games in the capital. So, that's not good. But I'm sure, Scott, you will remember under Sir Bobby Robson, the London curse, and Lauren Robert put that to bed at Highbury. So cause for optimism that someone, Anthony Gordon, perhaps can get rid of that current day curse that is currently haunting Newcastle United. In terms of players in the black and white of Newcastle, I've mentioned a couple. Is there anyone that stands out which you think Chelsea will be fearing?
Yeah, I think maybe current form notwithstanding, Gordon and Isak are the 2 names that will probably stand out for most teams. And I think because of those maybe perceived weaknesses in Chelsea's defence, they're going to be the guys that kind of stand out as chief threats and people they're probably going to be talking about in the dressing room beforehand. And then I think, as I said before, the midfield battle is going to be really interesting. So just how Bruno, what Bruno, I guess, turns up. Is he going to get a yellow card early, and are Chelsea going to have a bit more freedom, or is it going to be a really tenacious battle for the course of 90 minutes where you can put pressure on that Chelsea team and on the crowd?
I think Joe Linton's the key one. He's had a poor season by his standards so far. Brilliant against Southampton on the opening day of the season. Good against Brighton. That was probably his best performance since the opening day of the campaign. But in between that, he's not, you looked himself. I just think if he can find what's been missing and he can dominate the midfield, then that will allow the likes of Bruno and Joe Linton, Tonali, to kind of express themselves a little bit more. And I really think Joe Linton, if he can just become once again that kind of battering around that tank, that's probably going to be key to winning the game on Sunday. Now, before I get your score predictions, Scott, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors, NORD VPN. You guys head over to nordvpn.com/tune to get an exclusive deal, which will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link to this offer is in the podcast description. Do click on that. Help the podcast continue to grow. It is a wonderful app to have on your laptop, on your tablet, on your phone. Very easy to sign up. It just takes a couple of minutes, couple of clicks, and then you are protected from the scammers who might want to get into your bank details, passwords, and steal your online identity. Loads of other benefits to it as well. It is well worth the cost of what is pretty much a premium cup of coffee these days every month to make sure that you are protected from those lurking in the shadows. So do head down to the podcast description box and get your offer for NordVPN. Scott, How is Sunday going to go? What is your prediction?
I probably came into the podcast thinking that it was going to be a 2-1 win to Chelsea, but I don't know whether it's just your talk of Joe Linton or if it's reflecting too much on Chelsea's form, but I think I'll go for a 1-1 draw. I think
You know what it is? It's my optimism and positivity that many of our listeners have laughed at me this week. But you know what? I'm sticking with it. I think Newcastle have a chance to create not as many chances. They're not going to have 21 shots on goal, I don't think, at Stamford Bridge. But I do see them having opportunities. I can see Isak getting on the score sheet. I can see Gordon celebrating his new deal as well with a goal. So I'm going to go for a Newcastle United win. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling good about it. I think everyone watching and listening, I hope you are too. I hope you are now feeling positive about Sunday, because if not, then I've failed in my attempts to get you to feel a little bit happier about facing Chelsea. Scott, thank you as always for popping on to the podcast. Remember, guys, get your NORD VPN exclusive discount offer by clicking the link in the podcast description box. I've been Andrew Musgrove, and I'll see you guys very soon.